9:30, by 9:15 he should be here, but everything is yat nishmai. There was traffic. So people said, I should say a word. So what am I going to say? You help me say a word. Everybody knows it's the 3 weeks to Ben Amtzarim. And the 21 days till Tisha B'Av is counted as the 22nd day. 22nd day is because it's considered a moed. But in all the Svarim, the Yishalmi, many Svarim, it's brought down that there's 21 days of Chaf Aleph Mei Ben Amtzarim. 21 days. The Marshan B'Chayris in Daf Ches writes that the 21 days of Ben Amtzarim is equivalent to the 21 days from Rosh Hashanah till Hoshana Rabbah. And he explains in the Gemara a very interesting story that the Gemara brings down, and he explains why these 21 days are the same. And in Svar Makadushim it brings down, it's a big avodas Hashem these days. It's days of tshuva, days of kapara. So the Mashal writes 21 days of Yisurim. We think about Beis Hamikdash and all the source of Khal Yisrael. These 21 days is a kapara, just like the 21 days from Rosh Hashanah to Hoshana Rabbah, which is Yimei HaRachim and Vaslichos. So in other words, there's two sets. There's 21 days now, and there's another 21 days. The question is, what is the connection? What do you need? This 21 days and this 21 days, each one helps on our avodas Hashem. So he brings the whole story in a Gemara, a very interesting Gemara, but it's a whole aricha, so I'm not going to go into the point. The Gemara has the story, Rabbi Shua ben Chananya, he was the Tana that went and fought against the Maskilim. You find it in Gemara Chagiga Dafei, the same type of Rabbi Shua ben Chananya, he fought against the Maskilim. And the Gemara brings down a certain story that they sent him to go fight with the Maskilim, and each one tried to challenge him. One of the Chachamim told the Rabbi Shua and told him, what happens if you have two izim and you have one chicken that's a white chicken and a black chicken, and the eggs come out both white. A white egg from a white chicken, a white egg from a black chicken. Could you tell me the difference on the eggs to see which is a white chicken and a black chicken? That's what they told Rabbi Shua. Rabbi Shua answered back, I have a different scenario. What happens when you have two sheep? One izim that's white and one that's black, and you make cheese out of them. The cheese are both white. Could you tell the difference between the cheese that comes out of a white sheep or a black one? This is the conversation in the Gemara, the fight between Rabbi Shua ben Chananya and the Maskilim. So Mashal explains that they were trying to say that we're finished in this world. The Yidden, Hashem left us in Golos, we have a lot of tzaras, and they wanted to prove their point. How did they prove their point? They said, you have a white chicken which symbolizes of white and beauty and great times. You have a black chicken which symbolizes on dark times. And look, the eggs that come out of both of them are the same white, but they're really all black. It doesn't make a difference if it's white or black. It looks to you white, but really it's coming from a black chicken and you don't know it's black. So Rabbi Shua ben Chananya answered back, I'll prove you from the Torah differently. We have Shnei Se'idim that come on Yom Kippur, that are Machaper. They look the same, but really one is black. What means black? It's not colored black. We throw it down L'Azazel, it gets broken up, and it's a Kapara Savainus, but it's considered a black, even though it's white, but it's considered a black sheep. And the result is cheese. Well, Kapara Savainus, it's all white. So don't bring a raya proof from, if you take a black chicken, it becomes the same white egg. So it's the same as the white egg that's just like a white chicken. He says, no, the Shnei Se'idim, even if it's black, it brings a kapara. So everything is white. That's the Mashal's understanding in the Gemara. How Rabbi Shua ben Chananya knocked out back the Goyim, the Maskilim, and he won them. He was Matzliach. The same with Rabbi Shua ben Chananya in Gemara Chagiga. The Gemara says a different story, but L'Shitosei, the same type of story happened. That they showed him that Hashem doesn't like us, and he showed, Oid yodainu tu ya aleinu. Hashem's hand is still on us. So that's the same Rabbi Shua ben Chananya who fought against the Maskilim. The question is, so it's two different things. 21 days of slicha, kapara, any aggravation that you have in life is a kapara savainis. And then when you daven, you may racham on slicha is also kapara savainis. But the Pinchas Karatzin, Imri Pinchas, brings it to a higher level and says that these days, hard days that a person goes through, when you think your day was a negative day and you had a very hard time, really if you strengthen yourself, it's the most positive thing because through that you grow. So Rabbi Simcha writes that the day, these 3 weeks, 21 days, is considered the zri'ah, the planting for successful Yom Raram. You think it's down days, negative, tsaris, agmas nefesh. So really we have to take it in our own lives. Any agmas nefesh we have, if we are maschazik ourselves, and we don't lose ourselves, we go with amun and betachin, we feel not good about ourselves. We don't feel good about our chesroinus, about our challenges, about our vinus. But when you strengthen yourself, that is the seed to grow later. Just like a seed, when you plant tevu in the ground, it does not start growing till it gets all rotten. Totally rotten, then it begins to sprout. So is the 21 days, says our Pinchas Karsa, it's not just two different kaparas. How much we strengthen ourselves in these 21 days, that's the foundation of growing in Yom Haram. He says a big chiddush, wherever you are Tisha B'Av, that's where you should be Rosh Hashanah. Because these days are the foundation. How do we understand it? We understand that, every person goes through hardship, it's a kaparas avanis. We understand that a person grows and has dveikus in Hashem, and tefillah, and learning, and doing tzedakah, tshuva tefillah tzedakah, mavina surah, that's the Yom Haram. But how does he understand that these days are the foundation of the Zriya, that you cannot get to Yom Haram unless we strengthen ourselves in these days? And let me tell you, I thought this Shabbos, a mordige zach. What is the Averis of these 3 weeks? Which Averis? So we find the Sinas Chinam that caused the second Chum Beis Hamikdash, Yom Davtes, right? We find in Shabbos 8 more Averis that they did that caused the Chum Beis Hamikdash. So what really caused the Chum? The Sinas Chinam was the Makeh B'Patish, that was the bang. But there was many Averis, many Averis. The Gemara lists them Sech the Shabbos, and Madrashim there's even more Averis. But what is the real thing that caused the Chum? The one thing that caused it. And it's something that's totally that nobody speaks about. And that's the Gemara Gittin. The Gemara Gittin starts a sugya of the Tisha B'Av. Ashrei Odom mefachet tamid umakshe libo yipol bara. A person is praised if he always thinks, what could my actions bring later on a later date? Ashrei Odom mefachet tamid. That goes in the Rebbeinu B'chai, speaks in Pashas Boy, that goes in everything in life. If you have a hole in the ceiling, you don't fix it right away. It's going to be a much large hole, and the whole ceiling will break down. So the Yisoid of Tisha B'Av, the Yisoid is that how did we not know that there's going to come a Chorban? So when we have these 3 weeks that we go through the Tsar, we look back, what happened till now, and we take the lesson, and we say, now we're going to start Yom Haram, a new Yom Haram. Look what we got into life till now. Tisha B'Av is the Chorban Beis Hamikdash, the Sreifas HaMikdash. We had a Chorban. What brought us this Churban? Because we didn't listen to Yirmiyahu Novi. We didn't listen. Every person in life gets older, looks back, what was the past. And that past tells, I should have done this, but take it from now. Ashrei Odom did 3 weeks as a zriya, as a planting, because to see how I was not successful till now, and what things I was successful, and what things I was not. Ashrei Odom b'fachet tamid, that caused all the Chatam, and that's why it's called a zriya, a planting the seeds to Yom Haram to be able to start from fresh. Because from past life history, that's the biggest Musa Sefer for a person to look in the future. What? So, the Nekuda Oiv is the Bruch HaMarboa Marav Agor Rabbi Simcha Bunim Cohen Shlita. Für gute Sache darf man warten.
Shem Yegen Shir Torah, I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's shir. I'd like to give a big shekar to Mr. Shlomi Berger for sponsoring tonight's shir. The Nishmas of Aaron Dov Ber, Berem Ephraim Alevi, Elva Sholem, and the Nishmas of Yaakov Shlomo, Berem Yisrael Yaakov, Elva Sholem Bigeleisen. Also, tonight's shir is learned the Nishmas of Elezer, Berem Tzviel of Sholem. To have the great schus of sponsoring a shir, call Yegen Shir at Torah at 718-851-8651, or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Tonight we have the covered Havalos once again, Rav Simcha Bunim Cohen Shlita, Rav Khal Ateres, Yeshaya, Lakewood. It's my covered calling Rav Cohen for tonight's Josh.
Sorry I'm late, but I don't take care of the traffic. Just want to say over first, we're holding in the 3 weeks. Rabbi Lapyan Zechrein El V'rocha brings down in Pashas Yisroi. Then it was a yelled cotton. And Nechnasti b'mei hamtzorim Ben Yudzayin B'Tammuz L'Bein Tisha B'Av L'Beis HaKnesses. Hagodel B'Shosh Shtayim Acha Chatzos Yoyim. 2 hours after Chatzos. From Shiva Osa B'Tammuz till Tisha B'Av. U'Metzosi Beis HaKnesses Mola Anoshim. I found the shul full of people Yoshivim Al Ha'aretz, were sitting on the ground. V'Orchim Tikkun Chatzos. And they were saying Tikkun Chatzos. Umi Hoya Elu Anoshim. Who are these people? Shoemakers, tailors, carpenters, anoshim pshutim. Yodu, they knew sheyesh larech tikkun chatzos. They knew to do tikkun chatzos. V'lichbois ala churban beis migdashenu v'gimel hashvuos in the 3 weeks of bein Mitzorim. It says Rabbi Lapyam v'ose olai roishim godel. Made a tremendous impact on me. Zeh hoya l'fnei shivim v'shei shonim. That was 76 years ago. It's a long time ago because he's not living a while. Kayoim ein royin zeh b'chlal. Today we don't see this b'chlal that people should come in the 3 weeks and make tikkun chatzos. So you'll say that's the level of Yo was a long time ago to blow the Apgan. So there was a big goy tzaddik goyin in Eretz Yisrael. His name was Rabbi Simcha Bunim. Him you heard of. If he would have been living today, he would have been just 80 years of age. They write like this: during the 3 weeks, and even more so the 9 days, a heavy cloud of mourning hung over the Pincus' home. They write of a stark contrast to the constant joy, cheer, and vigor that was in their house throughout the whole year. Thus, not once throughout the 3 weeks, you hear this, the Shimshon Pincus, almost a contemporary of mine. I'm a little younger than him. I'm not 80 yet. But he says, thus, not once throughout the 3 weeks did he or any of the children mention the upcoming summer vacation. You hear that? In the 3 weeks, they didn't mention the summer vacation, and Lida, unfortunately, we're in the summer vacation. So what should we do? The Gemara says, so I want to give you a cooler before I say the word I want to say tonight. So you have to say like this. You have to tell the Eibishter, I feel bad that I don't not Masabel Karoy. That much we could say. We don't have to mean it even, but the words we could say. And if you say Al Naharis Bovel before you go to sleep and you sit down on the floor for 10, 15 seconds, you're doing a great deed. Most of people won't do that. Rabbi Vigda used to do it. Rabbi Vigda Miller used to do it every single night of the whole year. He used to sit down before he went to sleep, sat down on the floor, and he said whatever he had to say. So we're not on the level to make tikkun chatzos. We're not even on the level not to go on vacation in the 3 weeks. But something to make a roishim, so when we come to the world of truth, the Eibishter will be able to say in us that HaMesabel al Yerushalayim Zoiche v'roya b'simchosa and Chash v'sholem v'she'ena Mesabel al Yerushalayim Eina Zoiche v'roya b'simchosa. Okay, the Gemara says a story as follows. The end of Makkah Daf Chav Daled Amud Beis. Everybody knows this story. You can tell you a pshat, a moiridik pshat. If you concentrate, you'll chap it, you'll enjoy it. It's worth $1 trillion in cash. Rabbi Shach used to say, if you don't get excited over a good word, you're missing the whole geschmack of love. You have to have a geschmack. When you hear a good svara, you got to put on a smile on your face. It gives chiyas, not learn. I heard a good kasha. He used to say a kasha in Poneviz in Shir, and the Olam didn't smile. He got mamish disappointed. Once you start smiling when you're learning, it's like you went on a trip too. Because all the traveling is an illusion. It's nothing. It's emptiness. I'm telling you. It's nothing. But you need a geschmack. So when you hear a good kasha with a good teretz, and it's a geschmack, and you make a geschmack out of it, then you went. So tonight we're going to Austria. And we're going to, I don't know where they go today. Italy. We're going all over tonight. Because in our minds we're going, because there's going to be such a geschmack of art. I hope I'll be able to explain it properly. The Gemara says the story as follows. Shuv pamachas hoy oilim Yerushalayim. 3 great tzanoim were going up in Yerushalayim. Kivin she'egiya lahar hatzofim kore b'gdayim. They ripped the begodim. Kiva and Sheigi Lahar Abayis, they came to Har Abayis, Ro'o Shu'ul, they saw a fox. Sheyoitze me beis kodesh hakedoshim. Hischilu heim boichem. They started to cry. These three great Tanoim started to cry. A fox coming out of the Kodesh Kedoshim reminds me, my Zayda, my mother's father was Rav Mata stuff in Europe. He once went back. He wanted to go to Kivra Ovis. He wanted to fix the cave from his grandfather, the Chsan Sofer. He says, Tomech, if I'll go back a second time, my heart will give out. So from the aggravation of the Churban, Matastov was a famous town. It was a small town, but it had the biggest Gedoyle Oilam who were Rabbonim there. He says he can't go back. So here these Tanoim saw a fox come out of the base Kodesh Kedoshim. You know what the base Kodesh Kedoshim is? We can't be massacred. So they were crying. But Reb Kiva Mitzachik, and Reb Kiva was laughing. These three Tanoim were crying, and Reb Kiva is laughing. Amru loy mitnemat Mitzachik. They asked him, why are you laughing? Amar lahem mitmeyatim baychem. Why are you crying? Amru loy mokim shikosav boy. A place what's written on Vazor HaKorav Yumos. If somebody was not supposed to be in the Kodesh Kedoshim Yumos, he's put to death. Va'achshiv she'ulam holchi boy. Faxes are gonge ore v'loy nifke. So we have reason to cry. Omelem the kachani mitzachek. That's why I'm laughing. The chsiv says ve'idolem edim namonim es Uriah hakoyim v'seschari ben Yivravchoyu v'chimai inyan Uriah etzel Zachariah v'migdash rishon v'schari v'migdash sheni elatola hakosev the v'yosef shel Zachariah nevuah from Zachariah and the nevuah from Uriah. But Uriah ksiv that the Beis Hamikdash is going to be plowed down. B'schari ksiv oid yesh v'zakein v'zakein b'nchovish v'shlayim. So Reb Kiva said, Ad shaloi neskayim nevuah shel Uriah, hoyse misyorish leis neskayim nevuah shel Zachariah. Now that I would see it was fulfilled the nevuah shel Uriah b'yedua. So it's known that Zachariah's nevuah is going to be fulfilled too, and we're going to have a good. It's going to be everything's going to be okay one day. So the Gemara is a pella. Mamish doesn't make sense. Again, let's go over the Gemara. Let's chap the Gemara. The Gemara says they were crying. Three Tanaim were crying because a fox is coming out, and Reb Kiva and they meet Rabbi Akiva, and Reb Kiva is laughing. So they ask Rabbi Akiva. The Lashon Gemara is. He says to them, so they ask him, why are you laughing? So he says, why are you crying? So he says, we're crying because of the Churban, and he's laughing because of. So the question is like this. He's asking them, why you have a tzchoik? I don't know if he's laughing. Why you have such a joyful phrase right now? Anachanami, the nevuah from Zachariah is going to be Niskayim. But was it Niskayim yet? This fox is walking out of the Kodesh Kedoshim, so we have reason to cry. You're telling us that the reason why you're in a good mood, I don't mean Mitzachik means you're laughing. I don't think Reb Kiva laughed. He was in a good mood because, and eventually the Beis Hamikdash is going to be rebuilt. That doesn't answer, that doesn't help us. You had a kasha, push the kasha. Mara says Masechtas Tainis as follows. In the pasuk Vatisa kol ha'eda vayitnu es koilum vayifku ha'om ba'layla hu. The Eda, the Jewish nation, cried that night. Omer Rabba Omer Yoichan Oysa Laila Leil Tisha B'Av Hoya. It was Tisha B'Av. Omer Lem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibishter said, Atem b'chisem b'chiyah shalchinim. You cried for no reason. V'ani keveya lachem b'chiyah l'doiris. I'm going to make sure you're going to cry for generations. So the Gemara is saying over here that the shayrish of the Churban was the b'chiyah, what they did for no reason. So we had to have a Churban to cause us to cry. Right? The Chazal said that the oynish of the crying for no reason was, so the Beis Hamikdash had to be destroyed in order we should cry. They cried for no reason, And I'll give you a reason to cry because the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. But l'chayre, the reason why we should cry is because of all the Yisurim that happened because of the Churban Beis HaMikdash. Every tsar, what we have today, and we're having almost for 1900 and change years, is all because of the Churban Beis HaMikdash. All tsaras. You have a tragedy, Churban Beis HaMikdash, Churban Beis HaMikdash. So the Gemara is mashma not like that. The Gemara is mashma that we needed a bchi. You cried for no reason, and I'm going to make you cry for a reason. The way I'm going to make you cry for a reason is because of the Churban Beis HaMikdash. What's the pshat? What's this pshat that we have to cry l'doiris? What are we trying to be masakim? We cried that night when the Meraglim came back with the report. We cried, so now we have to cry l'doiris. And by crying l'doiris, we're rectifying the crying what the Meraglim did that night. So the pshat could be like this. I want to quote you a pasuk in Chumash. It says, Moshe Rabbeinu is mechiach in Devarim. He gives techocha, rebuke the Khal Yisrael. He says, the pasuk as follows: "Vatikruvun alai kulcham, vatoimru nishlucha anoshim lefenenu." You should send spies. V'yachbru es lonis haaretz, v'teiragnu, and they complained bo'alechem in their tents. Vatoimru, and they said, "V'sinish Hashem oisonu hoitzionim eretz Mitzrayim." So they were crying in their tents that night, because the whole Torah from Yitzias Mitzrayim was because the Eibishter hates us. We spoke about that Pesach by night. The Yidden were complaining that the Eibishter took us out of Mitzrayim because he hates us. Makes no sense. If there was any tkufa in Klal Yisrael where we saw the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Klal Yisrael was when he took us out of Mitzrayim. The pasuk says over there, Ve'eschem al kamfei neshorim. A Nesha carries the children on top of himself, just in case somebody wants to do something damage. It shouldn't. The Eibishter did miracle upon miracles when he took us out of Mitzrayim. And that they say that the Eibishter took us out of Mitzrayim because he hated us. Doesn't make sense. That's what they were complaining. If they would have said that we're crying because we saw giants over there, okay. But they're saying over here, Moshe Rabbeinu is telling them, you cried because you felt that the Eibishter took us out of Mitzrayim because he hates us. The Eibishter doesn't make sense. We never had so many miracles happen to us like Yitzias Mitzrayim. The Yam Suf split into 12 parts. Gewalt, what's pshat? Pshat says in order to understand this, we have to bring down a mashal what Rashi says. Rashi says a mashal as follows: Mashal melech basav Adam. Take a king. Shohoye lo shnei banim. He has 2 children. Again, we're trying to explain to us that the night of Tisha B'Av v'Rabbichia shalchinim are crying for no reason whatsoever, and now we're being masakin that crying with a b'chia l'doiris. How does one correspond to the other crying? So Rashi brings a gavaldige mashal. Listen to this. Rashi says, Mashal melech basav Adam. Shohoye lo shnei banim. He had 2 children. V'yesh lo shtei sodas. He had 2 fields. Acha shel shakya. One is a field from shakya. We'll explain what that means. V'acha shel baal. The mishihu oyev, the son who he loves, he gives the soda from shakya. The mishu soine, the one who hates. Rashi says, Noisin loy shel baal. Rashi continues, Eretz Mitzrayim shel shakyahi. It's a land of shakya. Why? Shenilis oilo mashkoise. The Nilis irrigated the fields by itself. You didn't have to come on to rain. It happened by itself. And you took us out of Mitzrayim to give us Eretz Canaan. So Rashi says like this. Klal Yisrael saying, you have 2 children. You love a son. You have a son what you like and a son what you dislike. So who are you going to give the good field to? The son you like. The son you don't like, you're going to give not such a geschmack field. Eretz Mitzrayim is a land where you don't have to worry about if it's going to rain or not going to rain. it irrigates itself. The Nilus overflowed and irrigated the field. Mashenken Eretz Yisrael is a Eretz Kosher. So you know how many times it doesn't rain in Eretz Yisrael? It's a Sadav Shel Baal. It doesn't have Hashkot, Tivyas. You have to come on to the Eibishter for that. So they said as follows. Now if you have to come on for the Eibishter for the rain, then you have to find favor in Hashem's eyes. If you have it irrigated by itself, like in Eretz Mitzrayim, you don't have to rely on the Eibishter so much. It happens by itself. So the Khal Yisrael said, "Lemi noisen es hasodah shel shakya, leben shoyev," I say, to the son who you love. "Lemi noisen es hasodah habal," to the son you hate. So the Eibishter took us out of Eretz Mitzrayim, a land where we have the Nilas, and he took us to Eretz Canaan, a land where we have to depend on Shaloi Kederech HaTeva, the Tivyas, the fields don't get irrigated by itself. So they tainted, Eibishter, you hate us. If you would love us, you would have left us in Mitzrayim and took out the Mitzrayim and gave them Eretz Yisrael. Now, if you look at history, where's all the oil coming from? From Israel? No. It comes from around Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael doesn't have oil. They can dig from today to tomorrow. They get cheres. They get nothing from it. In around Eretz Yisrael, Saudi Arabia, they're laughing at us. They have all the oil. So that Khal Yisrael tainted, Moshe Rabbeinu says, that Khal Yisrael tainted that night, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us, He should have given us the land of Mitzrayim and kicked out the Mitzrayim and sent them to Palestine. Not fakert. V'lon in us in Eretz Yisrael, that's called love. You hear that? So they cried. What's the answer to that kasha? The had taka taina, no? They should give us Mitzrayim. We'll build the Beis HaMikdash in Mitzrayim. What do we need Eretz Yisrael for? If we have to. So the answer is as follows. This is the yesod of being happy in this world. We're all looking for happiness. Most people couldn't find it yet. So they think they're finding it by going here, there. I want to give you a mashal, and then I'll explain you the word. Your limbs, what you can't live with, are inside. Achman l'tzlan, if you're missing a hand, you could live. You're missing a foot, you could live. You're missing an ear, you could live. Your eyes, chas v'shom, you get blind, you could live. Could you live without a heart? No. Could you live without a liver? No. The Eibishter's meramas us. Just like your vital limbs are inside, happiness has to come from within. If you're looking for outside for happiness, you'll never be happy. And that's why the biggest tzaddikim who had no oilam hazeh were the happiest people. Chazon Ish had nothing, had no children. His wife wasn't well totally. His Rav Wosner writes in one of his chalokim, the whole Yerusha from the Chazon Ish was $10. He didn't own a shas. He wrote on shas, but he didn't own a shas. And he was the happiest man. Thousands of people went into him, came out mechuzik. What made the happiness to the Chazon Ish? I'll tell you in a minute. Same thing as the Blazer Shach. He writes in a place, I never had a good day in Olam Hazeh, but I'm the happiest man. So we see that having Olam Hazeh and being happy is not connected. The biggest tzaddikim didn't have no Olam Hazeh. Klosenberger Rebbe had a life. I don't want to tell you his life. It was a difficult life. So what's the pshat? So what's Taka the answer? Why Taka did the Eibush to take us out of Mitzrayim, give us Eretz Yisrael? He should have let us stay in Mitzrayim. The answer is as follows. The Gemara says in Masechtas Yuma, listen to this Gemara. A geschmack shtikel Gemara. Sha'alu Talmidav es Reb Shimon ben Yochai, the asked the Zoya, Mipnei ma lo yored lehem Yisrael mom pam achas b'shana. Why did the mon have to fall every single day? Should have fell once a year. Amar lahem, so Reb Shimon ben Yochai said, Em shelecha mashal, lama adov adoyma, lamelech basa v'dam, sheyesh lo ben echad. Pasuk lo mezayin oisves pan achas b'shana. If he gives him his mezayin, his sustenance once a year, so the son shows up once a year. Papa, I need money. But if he has to come on, if his father gives him every day his mezainis, his sustenance, so then he has to come on to Papa every day. The Eibishter said, if I give you the mon once a year, you won't be so dependent on me. If a guy has 4 or 5 children, and every day the man has to come, he's worried if the man's going to come, not going to come. They might die from hunger. So the Eibishter said, but now that you know that you have to come on to the Eibishter, so you have to have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai said. The Eibishter was scared, if I give them the mon once a year, they'll only call out to me, they'll only have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu once a year. But if a person has to daven every day to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for his sustenance, for his livelihood, so then he has a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The closer you are to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the happier you are. Bani, says David HaMelech, Kirvis Elikim Li Toiv. Nobody in this room had such a hard life like David HaMelech had. He was excommunicated by his family. They held he was a mamzer. So when everybody ate supper, he ate in the field. He was a shepherd. Then his son wanted to kill him. Who made shirish v'shish bachas? What you say every morning? King David. How do you do that? Kirvis Elikim makes you happy. Try it out. Now, the reason why Khal Yisrael wanted to be in Mitzrayim, because they didn't want to have such a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In Mitzrayim, they didn't have to worry if the field is going to be watered or not. The Nilas did it automatically. They were scared if they go into Eretz Yisrael, they have to start behaving and they have to have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu because they need HaKadosh Baruch Hu for every minute. We also need him for every minute. But we don't realize it. Listen to these words. A person wants to live without lachatz, without pressure. And Eretz Yisrael was pressure for Klal Yisrael. In Mitzrayim, there wouldn't have been so much pressure. So they were crying, we don't want so much pressure, Eibishter. It's too much. But they didn't realize that the other way around is much better. Ha'oisha ha'godl b'yoseh, the greatest happiness is lias tolik b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to be dependent on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kirak os chaim and dveikis. B'Hashem Yisbarach. Shezeh ha'tainik ha'godl v'idin, like the Mashiach Shalom writes, the biggest tainik we're going to have in the world of truth. But in this world itself, the biggest tainik is when you have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If the son doesn't want to have a relationship with the father, and the father doesn't have a relationship with the son. So, if that's the case, so the tshuva to the Meraglim is pashut. Eretz Mitzrayim is taka land, but you don't have to come on to HaKadosh Baruch Hu every day. And Eretz Yisrael is a land where you have to come on to him. But the Eibishter gave you that Yisrael because the Eibishter wants a relationship with you. And you cried for that. You cried because you thought not having a relationship with Hashem is a bigger happiness than having a relationship with Hashem. And that's what they cried for that night. They cried because they were scared to have the biggest tainig in this world having a relationship. Because if you have to have a relation, if you have to come on to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for everything, then you got to behave. You can't go over to your father. Today they could, but in the olden times you can't slap your father and then ask him for $5. It doesn't work in the olden times. Today we're living in a generation, you should excuse me for saying it, but it's the truth. It's only a positive generation. You can't say anything today too sharp because the oilam is going to fall apart. We dug our own grave. They once asked me years ago to come to the Aguda convention. No, I didn't. My Zaydis didn't belong to nothing. So I said, yeah, I'll come. I want to speak about Gehenim for 35 minutes and Oilam Haba not 35 minutes. They said, stay home. I said, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to stay home. You ever heard the word? I was once walking with Rabbi Miller in the streets. So he gave me a few minutes. He had a lot of stratagems what he did, a lot of avodas Hashem what he did. When we came to Quentin and King's Highway, he said, Harden loch mesachtes psachim. He was chazing bahat mesachtes. So one of the stratagems was, in Yiddish, he only spoke Yiddish, he said, say after me for 1 minute, I came to this world only for the next world. Say that for 1 minute with me. Okay, I said it. Then he said, I am afraid, in Yiddish he said, I'm saying it in English, I'm scared of Gehenna. Say that with me. Okay. After 30 seconds, I stopped. So he says, you think if you're not going to talk about it, you're not going to go there? On the contrary, if you talk about it, there's a chance you might not go there. But don't say this over to people not going to like to hear that. So then we're walking further. I don't know where we were holding already. I was quiet because he was doing his things, and I was just allowed to walk next to him. And we passed a fire engine. So he says to me, the Eibush is reminding Avig the Miller about Gehenna. I looked at him, what's the Rav talking about? A fire engine is putting out a fire. A fire is a reminder of Gehenna. That's what the Eibush made a fire in this world to remind you of Gehenna. Oh, don't say that over, Barab, he said. People are going to throw you out. But if you say it with a smile, they'll let you get away with it. So he heard a fire engine, he heard Gehenna. I want to tell you what Reb Steinman said. A scary talk, this, but I'm telling it to you because it's the 3 weeks. You're allowed to be a little afraid. Reb Steinman said, Tzaddik Yisad Olam, Tzaddikim, said the Eibush brought in Europe, people died, but they didn't die such gruesome death. Cancer was, this of Steinman and of Shach, not me. I'm not a Bahacha to say anything. Cancer was brought down to the world to remind, not the ones who have it, to remind us that there's a Gehenna. It takes the person, Achman and Litzlan, and the Eibush uses it as a dogma. Why this person gets it, that's the Eibush's Cheshbon. Big Tzaddikim get it too. That's what Rav Steinman said. Rabbi Yerucham said Hitler came down to the world to remind us of Gehenna. And today you can't talk about it. I'm not saying you should talk about it every day, but once in 6 months, you're allowed to talk about it. No, it's not a bad idea. But they won't let me. You guys can stop me now, go home. I don't mind going home to Lakewood already. Yes, so let's get back to the Vort now. So Klal Yisrael didn't want a relationship with Hashem. They said, give us Eretz Mitzrayim. We're scared of a relationship with you. Then we got to behave. If we won't behave, we won't get rain. And that's exactly what the Eibush did with the Nachash. He told the Nachash, he cursed the Nachash, I'll give you your food wherever you go. For us, that's a bracha. But for the Nachash, it was a klala. No relationship with Hashem. And that's the pshat. When the Eibush told Adam Arishan after the Chet, he said, B'shosh Oma Kadosh Baruch Hu Adam Arishan, koitz v'darder tatzmiach loch. You'll eat thorns. Zol gu ein of the mois. Adam Arishan started to cry. Why did he start to cry? Oma, he said, Ani v'chamoiri, I and my donkey, nechel ba'evis echad. Kivin she'ama loy b'zeyes ha'pecha toicha lechem. What's pshat in the Chazal? Adam Arisha was afraid that the Eibush wanted to cut off his relationship with him, just like a chamar. You ever saw a cat look for? Cat has food always ready for himself. Birds, I do it every few days. It's mamish miracles. I take a piece of bread, old Khal, I put it in front of my house. I don't send out a text because I don't text. And all the birds come. How did they know? I didn't send out a text or WhatsApp. 25 birds come from all over. How did the birds know to come? The flyers are better. I have to go nowhere. The guy told me recently, I went to Austria to see the mountains, then the flyers are better. I said, try it out with the birds. No text. And some days they come, some days they don't come. I tell you, the days they don't come, they went to Florida. It's a miracle. That's not shy. Have you tried it out? Try it out. You'll see. Wait 5 minutes. I don't know if they come in Flatbush. Maybe they come in Lakewood. Maybe they like me already because I served them bread. So Adam Arishan said, Eibush, you're giving me the worst curse. The Eibush said, V'zeyis ha'pecha toicha lechem. Then the skarer daitoi. Adam Arishan can't calm down. Now I have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now I have something to live for. So the shoyrish chet from the Meragel was on the bechi of Besinas Hashem. What was the Sinas Hashem? That the Eibishter wanted a relationship with them, and they didn't want to be so dependent on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's a B'chi Shel Chinam. It's for nothing. A relationship with Hashem is the best thing in the world. That's a B'chi Shel Chinam. Now, the Brisker Rov was a big Baal B'tachan, so I'm just saying over the story. The Brisker Rov always used to he had a small koilel when he came to Yerushalayim, so they wanted to give him for a few months. He didn't want to take. He says, I'm going to lose my B'tachan on the Eibishter. I want to be dependent on the Eibishter every month. Reb Chaskel Levenstein, the Heilige Mashgiach from Ponevezh, the Ponevezh Rav always used to pay on time. Then there was a tkufa, the Rav had difficulty raising the budget. So Reb Chaskel didn't get his check on time for a few months. He said, now I'm working on my B'tachan already. I got used to the check. Now that the Rav didn't pay me on time, I'm working on my B'tachan again. The Manchester Rosh Hashiva Zechron Levracha says over the story as follows. One of his chavrusas told him that he's a sefer and he got a job to write a sefer Torah. So he's calm because he has panosa now for the whole year. So the Manchester Rosh Hashiva told him, Oy vey, if I'd be in your place, I wouldn't be so excited. Because your relationship with Hashem is going to get weak now. You're guaranteed panosa for the year. That's a shvacha relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what's the tikkun for the chet for the meraglim? The tikkun for the chet for the meraglim was b'chi l'doiris. You cried because you didn't want a relationship with Hashem. The Eibishter said, I'm going to destroy the Beis HaMikdash. And you're not going to have no shaykhs. You're not going to have this mokim HaKadosh where you could have the strongest relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And now you're going to cry a crying what's worthwhile crying. You cried a b'chir shel chinam. And I'm going to make you cry now. To make up for that crying, I'm going to make you cry a b'chir what's worthwhile. It's worthwhile crying to get the Beis HaMikdash back. Because when the Beis HaMikdash will be standing, we'll have a much stronger relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You got the pshat now? Now we'll understand the Gemara. This is Gavaldik. So we cried a b'chir shel chinam. We thought that a relationship with Hashem is not so geschmack. You got to behave. We didn't realize that that's the biggest gift. And we teach, like history teaches us, the biggest tzaddikim had in Olam Hazeh had difficult lives, and they were the happiest people. Happiest people. Rabbi Simcha Bunim Cohen Shalom told me that when Rabbi Moshe was under the Bolsheviks, they wanted to mamish kill him. He wrote Chedusha Torah. He was ruig. He had menuchas hanefesh because he was dovik b'Kodesh Baruch Hu. Dovik b'Kodesh Baruch Hu. You have menuchas hanefesh. The night, I'll never forget, but Rabbi Nissen Alpert, this great goyim v'tzadik, told me. The night, Gimel Av is the yard site from Rabbi Moshe Shuzgal. He was Rabbi Moshe's Eidim. He was a tzadik Yesod Olam, a goyin Olam. That night, it's coming up Gimel Av, Tovshin Lamed Gimel, 1973. I remember him as kid. I was always scared to walk on the east side in the same block with him, the same side of the street, because whenever I met him, he asked me, could you tell me pshat in the Gemara? So I told him, Rav Shuzgal, I never learned the Gemara yet. So Rav Shuzgal, with his Tamim, his tzidkis, would tell me, I'll tell you over the Gemara, and see if he could help me figure out pshat. So whenever I saw him walking this side of the street, I crossed to the other side of the street. So the night of his Levaya, Reb Nissen Alpert was able to see Reb Moshe's living room window, sees the lights go on, 12 o'clock, and saw Reb Moshe pacing the living room. He knew already that Reb Shuzgal was nifta. 3 o'clock in the morning, Reb Nissen couldn't sleep that night already. He says he was so close with Reb Moshe Shuzgal. If he would have been living, he was nifta by 52. He would have been the tzaddik hador in America. He sees Reb Moshe up 3 o'clock in the morning writing. So he asked him the next day. The Rashiv used to get up a little later, 3:45. Why'd you get up so early? To write Chedushim. So Moshe told him, I have a Levaya tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to write. So I have to get up earlier to write Chedusha Torah. He's on the night of the Levaya from his son-in-law, this great Goyim V'Tzadik, and he has Menuchas HaNefesh to be able to write Chedusha Torah. That's when you're Dovik in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the Oisha from being Dovik in Hashem. And when you're not Dovik in Hashem, every little kleinigkeit, what comes your way, doesn't go exactly where you want, you're bent out of shape, and you have to go for therapy. The best therapy is Hashem. I'm not saying you shouldn't go, but if you can rely on Hashem. Now we're going to say pshat in the Gemara we started off with. This is Kafta V'ferech, and then I'll let you go. This is so sweet. We're coming to the punchline. Don't fall asleep on me yet. Almost finished. And then I'll wrap it up for you should be able to say it over. To the whole Flatbush. You hear? Ma'ata yizbaya peshet schoik shel Rabbi Akiva. Sibich says schoik shel Rabbi Akiva. Why was he smiling? Why was he in a good mood? Mit mishero asachomem beichim. Why were they beichim for? They were beichim for the Beis Hamikdash, right? They saw a fax come out of the Beis Hamikdash. They were crying, "We need the Beis Hamikdash." So when Akiva asked them, when they asked Akiva, why are you smiling? And he answered them, not because he didn't know why they were crying. He figured out when you see a fax coming out of the Beis Hamikdash, the Kodesh Kadoshim, you cry. He said the reason why I'm mitzachek because you're being misaken the b'chi shel chinam. That's why he was mitzachek. He told them we're accomplishing the reason why we had the whole. We have to cry for the Beis Hamikdash. So I'm mitzachek now because I know why you're crying for. You ask me why I'm smiling. Because I see you crying. Why are you crying for Churban Beis Hamikdash? So you're being misaken the chet, what we did, the Meraglim did. B'sinis Hashem, they cried the b'chi shel chinam. And that's why he's mitzachek. Because you're being misaken the b'chi. So we see that crying is a gavaldige zach. So even if you cry, let's say for a tragedy, or by a levaya from a young person, you're crying. But you have to know that all the tzaras comes because of the Churban Beis Hamikdash. So when you say, even if you say the words, Eibishter, the young person died, so many tragedies are happening. Too many. Churban Beis Hamikdash. Even if you just say the words, it becomes part of your Tchunas HaNefesh. So now we understand everything, what we have to be mesaken. We'll have to have a tshuka for ruchnias. I want to tell you something. Every living person has to have a dogma in front of his eyes that this person, I want to be like this person. Either it's a living person or it's not a living person. With this, I'll end you off with a story. I really forgot the pictures. I have a friend who lives in Eretz Yisrael. I said the story over 1,000 times, and that was 1,001. Usually I show it with the pictures, but I didn't bring the pictures tonight. I have a friend, an Einikel for Rabbi Yosef Shalom Eliashiv. He was brought up in Chazon Ish 5. Chazon Ish 5 had 3 apartments. Rabbi Yitzchak Gezinski, his father was the Mashgiach in Salabatka, was killed in the Kovna ghetto. Rabbi Avram, Rabbi Miller said, if you saw him, you saw a Malach Elikim. Then Rabbi Eliashiv's Eidim, Yisraelson, and Rav Shteiman. So he was brought up with Rav Shteiman, and he was close with his grandfather. Anyway, Rabbi Shteiman comes over to him one time before he's going to America. He goes into his old neighbor. He says, Rosh Hashiva, I'm going to America to collect. I need a bracha. Rav Shteiman tells him, Lipala, if you find somebody in America who's happier than me, you get $1 million cash. Rav Shteiman takes him to the safe where he has the $1 million. Rav Shteiman was a Gabbat Stoker. He had more than $1 million. Green smackers. And he takes him around his house. He shows him Lipa. In Gashmis Habachals. Now, in Gashmis, Rav Shteiman had nothing. He had 2 kapotas. His refrigerator was empty. He had 2 pots. I can show you pictures of his house. You never saw such a thing in your life yet. And in Ruchnis, I'm trying my best. Lipala comes to America. He's looking for somebody. You got to find somebody who's happier than me. And Lipala is a person what's very geschmack to speak to. Some people are geschmack. People open up to him. Some people, when you talk to them, you close up. Some people draw out, have the koiches to draw out people. He comes to the first gvir. He says, you're collecting? Yeah, man. Oh, you have a son off the derech. Could you get a bracha from Yezayda, Rabbi Yashiv, and Rav Shteiman, and Reb Chaim Kanievsky, his uncle? Second gvir, the same thing. He comes back to Bnei Brak. He goes right to Rav Shteiman. He visits his mother. His father's not living already. Rav Shteiman asked him, Lipala, did you find somebody happier than me? No. Rav Shiva is the happiest person. I didn't find anybody happier. He says, the deal's on the next time. Okay. Comes back a few months later. He meets in Borough Park on 52nd or 53rd Street and 13th Avenue, right next to Shem Shabbos. He meets the Tzaddik Hador. Wow! They kiss each other. Who's the Tzaddik Hador? Uri Zohar. The man by 42 years old gave up. Now, when Rabbi Zohar spoke, you're going to have Meshim the next year, Mashash, you'll have 150,000 people, right? Maybe. When Rabbi Zohar spoke, he had 2.5 million viewers, more than all Torah time listeners. 2.5 million people wanted to see that man. Even when he became frum, they just wanted to see him and talk. He didn't go to interviews. At the end of his life, from 42 till 80-something years old, he learned 16 to 17 hours a day. It was a book, B'Shaz, Dal Chelke Shulchan Aruch. It's amazing. He meets him in the 13th Avenue. They kiss each other. What are you doing here? Rav Shteinman sent me Flei Vachem. What are you doing here? I came to collect. I need to find somebody happier than Rav Shteinman. I get $1 million. He says, you got it. I'm happier than Rav Shteinman. He asked him why. Rav Shteinman always knew what Torah life was. I, till 42, was a shmegegi, and now I turned around my life, so I'm happier because I realize what Torah life is. Then a second lady runs after him. He says to him, Lipele, you lost your money. Rav Shteinman is happy to me. And I have the pictures. Every time I go to see this Tzaddik Hador, he's sitting on the edge of a high riser on a hard wooden stool to lean back. And that's the way he sits a whole day and a whole night. Only somebody what's dov again HaKadosh Baruch Hu can sit like that. And he's my dogma. Whenever I think of Rav Shteinman, I become happy because I see what happened, what Dovik and HaKadosh Baruch Hu could bring. So the essence of the story is Rav Shteinman was the happiest person, and the dogma for Rabbi Zohar was Rav Shteinman. Every person needs a living or not living dogma. I want to steigen ruchnius. I want more and more. And what's the climax of Shemoneh Esrei? Tired of Yidden. Get it? Everybody's finishing Shas today, right? We never had this. When I was growing up on the east side, it was only Rabbi Moses Feinstein and Rabbi Yosef Eliyahu Henkin. Today, with Art Scroll, Masifta, everybody's finishing Shas, right? No? I pay people if they learn from a regular Gemara, and for each Omer, I give them $1. If they learn from I want the Vilna Shas to stay still in circulation. Because the next door, they're not going to know that there was a Vilna Shas. So what do we end Shemoneh Esrei for? Shibana Beis Hamikdash b'mheira b'yameinu v'seichel keinu b'sayda secha. Who's complaining? I finished Shas. I did the cycle 6 times already. And we're asking for the Beis Hamikdash v'seichel keinu b'sayda secha. What's the pshat? Because Torah is much more than we think it is. So we need the Beis Hamikdash to have the Siyata D'Shmai. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu bench us all. We should be Zoichet to Beis Hamikdash. The Eibush should be, we should be, Dai Loni. I'll tell you one story. I was once talking with Rav Moshe Feinstein in his living room, long time ago. I'm an East Side boy, so I used to be there a lot. So he told me he hopes to live to Mashiach. He also only spoke Yiddish. So I asked him as a joke, the Yeshiva has a raya? So he opened up his blue eyes. Very nice man. The Rebbetzin used to tell me when I used to go visit him after she wasn't living, when the Yeshiva wasn't living, she says to me, Rabbi Cohen, such a goyin like my man, you're not going to be able to be. But a gentleman wie my man makes the choice land in Tzayin. Everybody loved Reb Moshe. He walked around with a smile. Ooh, a smile on his face. My wife's grandfather, Rebbe Vigda, once said, he looks in a mirror to practice his smile, how much of his cheekbone he should lift up. He doesn't have to look in the mirror how he looks. He knows how he looks already. To practice up a smile. So Moshe tells me, Chavtze the Leb Mashiach. I asked him, the Yeshiva has a raya? He says, yeah. He asked me, how many people do you know in this generation who could pass Dalet Chelke Shulchan Aruch on the spot? So I told him I know one, Rabbi Feinstein. Muzach Dalab Mashiach. In Tovshim Mem Aleph, another time I was there in the house, he told me Mashiach was supposed to come, but a machlokes broke out in Khal Yisrael, and is not coming now. So, in the 3 weeks, I want to ask you halach l'mais, and then I'm stopping. If the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the Maisa, because of sin is chinam, shouldn't we ask mechila for each other in the 3 weeks, not Erev Yom Kippur? This is a shayla I don't have a tshuva for. If you give me this, I'll give you $5. Let me see, I have some cash on me. I'm asking a push the shayla. The Beis Hamikdash was destroyed because of sin is chinam. And kol doshla and if the Beis Hamikdash, we still have the sin is chinam. So we should be all asking each other mechila now, not Erev Yom Kippur.
I said in the yeshivas used to call it Mizal Meichel sein ben Odom Lachaveru, you know. But I say, Shem Egen Shir Termas Boston, I'd give big Yeshaya to Rabbi Cohen for tonight's drasha. Rabbi say Egen Shir Termas annual dinner is coming up just in a few short weeks, August 20th, Tuesday, August 20th, to have the great schus of the Abatzis Torah, Egen Shir Torah, and help support our Abatzis Torah, put an ad in the journal. Call Egen Shir Torah at 718-851-8651, email ist@yeshivanet.com. We'd like to give a big Yeshaya to Rabbi Shlomi Berger for sponsoring tonight's shir, the Nishmas of Aaron Dov Berber and Ephraim Alevi, and the Nishmas of Yaakov Shlomo Berber, Yishol Yaakov Shalom Beagleiz, and Lema Shalom. Also, tonight's shir was learned the Nishmas of Eliezer Berber Tzvi, all of our Shalom. Shekach everyone for coming. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash Emer Tzagash Baruch Hu Lezakis as Yisrael Figure Hibron Torah Mitzvah Shenema Alonu Chofes Amad Tzidkoi Yagdol Tervi Yader.